Hi, I'm Gail Sokol and welcome to my kitchen. Today we're going to be making a stovetop custard, a vanilla pastry cream. And there's two types of custards. There's stovetop that are actually made on top of the stove, right? That's a no-brainer. And there's some custards that are made in the oven, like creme brulee and flan, things that you may be familiar with. So the ones that are on the stove are things like puddings and the pastry cream that we're going to be making today, and even the bases for ice cream. And this could be used as a basis for ice cream if it wasn't as thick. So let's get started. I have 1 cup of whole milk with 2 tablespoons of that whole milk taken out. And I've put that extra 2 tablespoons in here because I'm going to show you what I'm going to do with it in a second. And I've added half a cup of heavy cream to that milk, and I have it on my stove just to get a little bit in the simmering range, maybe warm to hot, to just under the boil. So I'm letting that rest right there. It's just under the boil and I'm watching it. Don't let it boil. In a bowl, all right, in a heat-proof bowl, this is a Pyrex bowl, I have a half a cup of granulated sugar and I have 2.5 tablespoons of cornstarch. This is our thickening agent. So I'm going to add 3 egg yolks. And basically in a custard, you usually use the yolks. You usually don't use the whole egg, although you can. For the most part, the egg yolks is what helps thicken a custard. Those extra 2 tablespoons of whole milk. And we're going to save our vanilla to go in at the end because we don't want it to evaporate. Some vanillas have a little alcohol in them. Now we're going to whisk this up and use a whisk. We're going to really whisk this. Now I want to tell you something. This starch, not only does it thicken, it also does something special. It actually, I'm going to turn my temperature down just a tad here. It actually helps to elevate the coagulation temperature of egg yolks. Now egg yolks start coagulating at about 149 degrees Fahrenheit. And usually anywhere from 148 to 159. The whites usually coagulate a little bit under that, about 144, 145. But we don't want curdled or scrambled eggs, if you will, in our vanilla pastry cream. That would be ugly. So what we want to do is keep it nice and smooth, and we don't want it to curdle. But we may have to bring it to a boil. So what I'm doing here is I'm stirring all this together, and each of the egg yolk strands, the proteins in the egg yolk strands are getting coated with that starch. And it's going to prevent them from getting too close together and squeezing moisture out and curdling. So that's what happens when you heat eggs. So what I've done is I have this milk and heavy cream. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my little kitchen towel there just to stabilize. And I'm going to temper my eggs. So you don't want to dump a hot liquid into eggs. So we're just going to go slowly just to get them tempered. And that's my burner telling me there's nothing on it right now. All right, so I'm going to get a little bit more milk and cream in there just to sort of temper it. It's sort of like when you go to the swimming pool in the middle of the summer and the air is hot but the pool is cold and you don't want to dive in right away, so you put your toe in and you slowly go in. That's what we're doing for the eggs. All right, so we're getting them sort of acclimated to the warm environment. So once you see that you have blended in quite a bit, and I have almost all of it, you can actually keep it going in a nice smooth stream and then pour the rest in. Now once it's all blended in, I'm just going to wipe down the sides here. All right. And I'm going to pour this custard that's not cooked back into my pot. It's not cooked and we're going to cook it, and you're going to not even have to wash this pot out right now. We're going to leave it in here and we are going to cook this custard till it is thickened. And what you're going to see, and you're not going to stop stirring it, you're going to stir it right around the edges. You can see I'm going right around the edges because that's where egg proteins can actually start heating first and actually start coagulating. We want them coagulating, meaning we want them to get firmer, right? Because we want our eggs to cook. We don't want curdling. So coagulation and curdling are two different things. One sort of an extreme of the other. Now the cornstarch is going to thicken. Cornstarch doesn't thicken until it really reaches the boiling point. And because the cornstarch is in here, just its mere presence is going to help elevate that coagulation temperature of the yolks, remember? So we are going to be protecting our egg yolks from overheating, and we're also going to be thickening our pastry cream, and it's going to be gorgeous. So you're going to see it happen all at once. Just watch. It doesn't take that long. You're going to see this beautiful, thin, gorgeous custard. All of a sudden, it's really going to start thickening and bubbly. And once it's thickening and bubbly, you want to give it a few seconds and then take it off the heat. There it goes. You see it? You see it thickening? You see it, see it, see it? It's a beautiful thing. Sometimes I take it off the heat if I think it's getting too much. But there it is. There it is. So I'm going to bring it over here. All right, I'm going to bring it over. And it is lovely. You see how beautiful and thick that is? And that will thicken up as it cools. But right now, we have a job to do, and that's to get this covered ASAP, and I'll explain why. But first, 1 teaspoon of pure vanilla extract. We're going to whisk that in there very carefully. Again, a lot of vanillas have alcohol in it, so we don't want to cook it out by putting it in before cooking, because you'd never taste it. So now that our pastry cream is done, all right, so that's raw egg stuff. We don't want to get that into here. I'm going to move this out of the way. And we're going to use a clean rubber spatula. And I'm going to take my pastry cream. Look how lovely that is. It is beautiful. And it's yellow from the yolks. It's got that rich color. If it was a little bit thinner, it could be used as the base for an ice cream, like a really, really nice ice cream base. Now, what I'm going to do to prevent a layer of protein that forms because of the dairy, you know, sometimes you leave a glass of milk out, and what happens to that glass of milk? It gets like a skin on it. That's known as casein. So what we're going to do is we're going to put plastic wrap right on top, not just on top of the bowl, right on top of our pastry cream. All right? And we're actually going to put that right on top of there. And that will prevent that skin from forming. Now, Julia Child used to put a pat of butter on hers. Of course, she would, right? Because she's Julia. But you can do that if you want, and you just let it stay there. You don't mix it in, and that will prevent, it sort of makes a barrier between the air and your beautiful custard. And then I put it in my fridge to chill for several hours, and then I can use it on a fruit tart. I can use it just as in between fruit and whipped cream and make a beautiful dessert. I can use it for a trifle. There's so many different things that you can do with a pastry cream. It's really just a pudding. And I have a great podcast on stovetop custards that have cornstarches in them or starches like flour. And I also have great podcasts on custards without a starch, like a creme brulee, or even certain ice cream bases. And those you do have to use a thermometer. So look for more videos where I use these beautiful pastry creams on my website, gailsokol.com.